Hare Krishna. Summary of Canto 4, Chapter 11. Swayambhuva Manu advises Dhruva Maharaj to stop fighting. Hearing the encouraging words of the sages, Dhruva Maharaj performed Achaman and fixed the Narayanastra on his bow. Then the illusions immediately vanished, just like how suffering disappears when knowledge arises. This is the power of the holy names of the Lord. The weapon fired arrows with shafts of gold and feathers of swans, which entered the enemy soldiers with a tumultuous sound like peacocks in the forest. Oppressed by those sharp arrows, the Yakshas were agitated and angrily rushed at Dhruva Maharaj with raised weapons, like snakes with raised hooves that attack Garuda. Dhruva then cut off the limbs of the Yakshas with his arrows and sent them to the planet above the sun globe, which is the Brahmaloka, which is attainable only by first-class brahmacharis. To be killed either by the Lord or a pure devotee is very auspicious for the non-devotees. However, the Yakshas killed by Dhruva, although entering Satyaloka, will not be liberated at the end of Brahma's life, but they will come back to earth. Seeing many innocent Yakshas being killed, Swayambhuva Manu approached his grandson Dhruva Maharaj along with many sages and began to speak to him out of compassion. He said, "Enough! Excessive anger is the sinful path of ignorance. You have already killed many offenseless Yakshas. This is not befitting our dynasty. It is condemned by the virtuous people. Killing many for one's fault is not approved. It has been proven that you are affectionate to your brother and aggrieved about his death. But for the fault of one Yaksha, you have killed too many Yakshas because of their connection. Killing others' bodies due to bodily identification like animals do is not the path of the sadhus. You are fortunate because you worship Lord Hari and you're already destined to achieve Vaikuntha, which is very difficult to attain. Since every living entity is a residence of the Supreme Lord, unnecessary killing is not permitted. I am so surprised by your act because you're a pure devotee and you always remember the Lord and you are remembered by the Lord. You're recognized by his devotees like Narada and others. So therefore you're supposed to be an example for others. Don't behave like this. The Lord is pleased with his devotee if he is tolerant towards seniors and when ill-treated by the envious. He is merciful toward inferiors and the ignorant, and he is friendly towards equals. And he is equal to everybody, considering their happiness and distress as one's own. When the Lord is pleased, one becomes free from the gunas and one's gross and subtle bodies. Then one achieves the Lord's abode. When Manu saw that Dhruva Maharaj was still dissatisfied because of his brother's death, he further explained who is actually the killer and who is actually being killed. He explained, from the five elements, the male and female bodies are created, and by their interaction, further male and female bodies are developed. Dhruva was indirectly advised not to be afflicted by his brother's death because bodily relationships are completely material. He said, like creation takes place, maintenance and destruction of the bodies also take place by the action of the gunas through the Lord's Maya. How can creation, maintenance and destruction of the bodies take place without some foundation of consciousness? Therefore, he said, the Lord indirectly causes the movements of the universe and its many causes and effects, like a magnet indirectly causes the movement of iron. If the Lord is aloof, then how is everything being done? The Lord has inconceivable energies. By his Kala Shakti, the modes are agitated and thus varieties of energies manifest. It appears that the Lord is acting, but he is not. See his supreme authority and other inconceivable powers. As time, the Lord is indestructible, beginningless, and inexhaustible, yet he causes birth and death for the living entities. The Lord is like a touchstone that creates many valuable stones and jewels, but does not decrease its power. Though the Lord acts in this way, he cannot be accused of injustice since he is always neutral. The Lord, as time, is neutral towards all beings. Everyone suffers or enjoys the result of his own karma but follows time just as dust particles are carried by the wind. Thus, someone may have a long life or a short life, but the Lord always remains transcendently situated. There are different opinions of different philosophers about the cause of dualities in life. The Mimamsakas say they attribute the cause to karma. The Lokayatas, the followers of Chakravaka, attribute the cause to Swabhava or nature. The Vyavaharikas, the followers of the Puranas, attribute it to time. Astrologers attribute it to fate or Daivam, and Vatsyayana attributes it to karma or lust. But none of the above philosophers establish the truth because they are ignorant of the Lord, who is the root cause of everything. Because no philosopher can actually understand the Lord's plan. He is unmanifested, transcendental, and the master of all various energies. These philosophers they consider that the various energies of the Lord cause the different destinations of happiness and distress in living entities. However, these philosophers do not understand that the Lord is the master of all these energies that has been spoken of. These followers of Kuvera are not the killers of your brother, he said, for the Supreme Lord is the cause of everyone's birth and death. However, the Lord cannot be blamed because the Lord is unaffected. The Lord is the creator, maintainer, and destroyer of the universe. But he is never affected by false ego nor by the material modes of such activities. How can the Lord remain aloof from ego and gunas? Through his external energy. The Lord, who is the Supersoul, controls and maintains all living beings. So Dhruva at this point in time was thinking that though I've been enlightened by you, still I cannot give up my ego. So at that time he said, you have to surrender unto the Lord. Surrender unto the Lord in all respects. He is both life for the devotees and death for demons. Everyone is under his control, like a bull that is controlled by a rope through its nose. He said, you're already a surrendered soul. So don't do anything unbefitting. At the age of 5, being afflicted by the harsh words of your stepmother, you entered the forest, engaged in austerity, and worshipped the Lord. Thus you achieved the topmost position in the 3 worlds. Therefore, turn your attention to the Lord, who is transcendental, infallible, and uncontaminated. Thus, you will find material differentiation to be just something that is flickering. Regaining your natural position and by rendering devotional service to the Lord, you will forget the illusion of I and mine. Dhruva was already liberated because at the age of 5 he saw the Lord, but he was temporarily afflicted by the illusory bodily conception of life due to his brother's death. Now Manu reminded him that he should not continue in this material conception of aham mameti, I and mine. He said, give up your anger by my instructions. Anger is the foremost enemy on the path of spiritual realization. It is detrimental for those who desire liberation and makes one a source of dread for all others. Thinking the yakshas to be the killers of your brother, you killed them recklessly. Thus, you disrespected and agitated the mind of Kuvera, the brother of Lord Shiva. Immediately go and pacify Kuvera by gentle words and prayers, so that his wrath may not affect your family. After thus instructing Dhruva and being worshipped by him, Manu returned to his abode. Thus ends the summary of Canto 4, Chapter 11. Swayambhuva Manu advises Dhruva Maharaj. Hare Krishna.